Oversight Committee. Mr. Comer.
Thank you, Chairman. The hearing title today claims there's an assault on voting rights in Texas, which would be very troubling if it were true, but it isn't. Your hearing title implies a big lie. Today, Democrats are holding a hearing meant to convince us of the necessity of their bill, H.R. 1, that would federalize elections across this country, funnel taxpayer money to politicians, and prevent common sense and popular integrity measures such as voter ID. Once again, Democrats are engaging in spectacle over substance while conducting no real oversight. There are multiple ongoing crises in our country that need to be addressed. Americans are suffering as a result of President Biden's inflation, border, and crime crises. We have asked repeatedly for a hearing on President Biden's border crisis, including the welfare of migrant children who have been held past the legal time frame in crowded facilities in the middle of a pandemic. Yet Democrats have held no hearings, nor have called on Biden administration officials to answer pressing questions about the gross mismanagement at the southern border. We've also called for hearings on other areas of waste, fraud, abuse, and mismanagement in the federal government, our committee's core mission. But Democrats have ignored these requests. Because federal bureaucrats have not returned to the workplace, veterans have waited for almost a year, for their records from the National Archives and Records Administration. This massive backlog is delaying the benefits to which they're entitled, yet no hearings from this committee. Hundreds of billions in pandemic unemployment relief have been stolen by international crime organizations. Again, there's been no hearing to understand how U.S. taxpayer dollars were so badly managed or the damage it caused to our national security. No wonder the Democrats in this committee received an F in congressional oversight by the Lugar Center. Americans deserve better. Instead of conducting real oversight, Democrats are holding a hearing to celebrate their theatrical exit of over 50 Texas Democrat legislators from their state to prevent debate on legislation they simply don't like. These Democrats fled Texas and paralyzed the Texas House, which cannot proceed with debate or voting legislation important to Texans, including voting integrity measures. During their super spreader stunt, Democrats flew to D.C. in 2 private charter jets, stayed in downtown hotels, met with the Vice President, the Speaker, and other congressional leaders. They spread COVID-19 all over D.C. and made sure to share their vacation experience all over social media to fundraise for their campaign and expenses. Unfortunately, this stunt likely pushed D.C. into the substantial spread zone, and we know what that will mean for our children. No in-person school as Democrats continue their quest to command and control our lives. If these Democrats actually cared about voting rights, they would care about the right of Texans to have their voice heard through their duly elected representatives. Their childish theatrics prevented the entire state legislature from debating and voting on important matters during the special session. Their actions have disenfranchised all voters throughout the state of Texas. The Texas bills being debated provide common sense voting integrity measures such as extending a simple voter ID requirement to absentee ballots and standardizing and expanding early voting access. Unfortunately, because Texas Democrats fled their state for Washington, that process cannot proceed as designed. I hope our committee will see the light in this partisan charade and start conducting real oversight. The American people are counting on us to safeguard their government from waste, fraud, abuse, and mismanagement. That's the reason this committee exists. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.